Hey y'all, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is Bodice Tipplers,
the podcast where we read all the books we used to steal off our grandmother's nightstands.
And then we drink about it. Hey y'all, this episode is sponsored by Kensington's newest Courage Under Fire by Lindsay McKenna. Known for her unique blend of action-packed, suspenseful stories set against the expanse and beauty of the American West, New York Times best-selling author Lindsay McKenna brings us back to Silver Creek, Wyoming for a powerful story of one man's quest to protect the courageous woman he loves from a dangerous threat to their future. Seeking an escape from her dark past, Carissa Taylor heads to Silver Creek to build a new life. For Carrie, landing at a job at a historic ranch just outside of town is a dream come true and a chance for her to put her beekeeping expertise to work. Y'all, come on, she loves bees. Not only does she feel at home in the ruggedly beautiful landscape, but she's intensely drawn to rancher Chase Bishop, whose strong, steadfast nature quiets her unease. Maybe here she can finally be more than a hunted woman fleeing with a vengeful killer. I mean, Carissa, I think you need to take care of that first. Chase didn't dare open his heart again after losing his first love until Carrie entered his life. Her gentle beauty and nurturing spirit called to him like no other. So when her enraged stepbrother breaks out of prison and comes prowling around Chase's ranch, the former Marine goes into full protective mode, offering Carrie the shelter of his home. But as the murderer's deadly threats draw ever closer, suddenly Chase is calling on his own killer instincts, knowing he will stop at nothing to keep safe the woman who has captured his soul. Y'all, you got bees. You don't have Meg Ryan and you don't have Denzel, but it sounds pretty boss. And who doesn't love a good Western? So pick up Lindsay McKenna's Courage Under Fire wherever you buy your books. We have a very special Patreon shout out for our very special 50th episode. We would like to thank Becky Sawyer for being one of our Patreons. Becky is a historic maven. She sews with the best of them. She can make any costume from pretty much any time period that you want. And she can also fire a cannon, which is pretty badass. Becky was very excited for the Thornbirds, and she just wants you to say, don't let your 14-year-old read this, unless, you want them to turn out like one of us old perverts. Becky also had a pretty scary health setback on her birthday, so anybody who complains about something happening on their birthday, Becky kind of had a little episode, but she is doing awesome, and so we are wishing her a very healthy and speedy recovery. And thank you, Becky, for being a Patreon and also just being kind of a badass lady.
This podcast was partially recorded in the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We acknowledge them and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional custodians of the lands, seas, and waterways throughout Australia. We also acknowledge First Nations peoples in the various regions this podcast reaches. We pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging.
On this episode, we read Colleen McCullough's The Thornbirds. This, oh boy, it's a big family saga, and it's got some pretty questionable grooming of a child, although the child is not, harmed in any sexual way. It's got some priest fucking. It's got people who castrate lambs with their teeth. It has a bad marriage, and then marital rape, and then stealthing rape by a woman. So if any of that bothers you, then this is probably not the book for you. It is the kind of big emotions, big family, big deal, big problems book. Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
It's Bodice Tipplers, and we don't know what we're doing per usual, but it's a special episode, very special episode. Those either go amazingly or they turn into 3.5 hour tomes. But we're going to endeavor.
You're saying that's two different things.
So this is our 50th episode. Can't believe we've done this 50 times and we haven't gotten bored or, murdered each other yet. So to celebrate our 50th, we decided to go big. We're going big. We're going saga big. And to join us is a very special guest. Special to me. This is my brother, Nate. Say hello.
Hey, everybody.
If you've listened to previous episodes, you may have heard me refer to my secret brother. A couple of years ago, my father got a notification ding on his Ancestry.com that he had found a match, or somebody had been matched, and it was a 99%, kind of certainty rating that this was a biological son. My parents did have a son that they had before me that they put up for adoption. And so my dad kind of, after thinking about it, reached out, and kind of the rest is history. So now we have on the episode my brother Nate. And again, this is kind of around the 2-year mark of when we met. We kind of contacted each other in February, but it was around April that we met. So Nate, welcome to the show. So one reason that he's on is we're doing this big kind of crazy family saga book. And I mean, what's more family saga like than, secret brother? I call him that. I knew my parents were very kind of forthright about it. So I think it's actually secret sister is probably more the realistic thing.
Yeah, I had no idea. So
it kind of, it fits in with this.
But the song doesn't work as well. Secret sister. Yeah.
That's creepier, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is that like we do have listeners in different countries, but we've only had guests from Australia.
Yes, so
yeah, we only do Australia for guests. Sorry.
That's the other thing is right around the time that we got in contact, Nate and his husband found out that they had been approved for kind of, I guess, just moving to Australia. So if you want to tell us a little bit about what drew you and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, when you say about the same time, it was actually within 12 hours. So, we were Sunday night sitting at a restaurant and get this notification like, hey, you're a permanent resident of Australia. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Monday morning, I'm sitting on a bus in Chicago going to work, and I get this, this notification like, hey, here's these 2 people that are your parents. And yeah.
God, I can't imagine the emotional weight that had to be. But it has for again, speaking to kind of our journey, it's just been really easy, and it's crazy how just smooth it's been. And I know for some people they don't have that, so I feel very, very blessed and lucky. But because I feel like I've kind of known you forever.
Well, and those things that are obviously hereditary, like, I don't know, a love of romancing the stone, or as my husband pointed out, everybody with our genes leaves cupboard and doors open. So some of the first things he pointed out when I went to visit.
And it always drives the spouse crazy. They just go behind you, shutting the things. And I think we kind of eat this, do stuff with one hand and then stuff with the other. And so it's been really nice. But so you've been in Australia now. I mean, it's kind of stinks because once you move there, basically you had 6 months, and then it was, lockdown and serious lockdown.
Yeah, it's been a ride. I know that I've been invited to this because I'm physically sitting in Australia, but to all of your Australian fans, I apologize because I've been locked in a house with another American in Melbourne for the last year. So I have seen a few other parts of Australia, but I am not the big expert. So
but even though you've only been there a little bit of time, you did say that you have encountered other people when you were reading this book who were really excited.
Oh, yeah. So there's this, I think this great love for this book in Australia. I've been sitting on a tram, and, people have come up and been like, oh, I love that book. And had a little chat about it. So.
She seemed fairly big deal. Like we talked about with her kind of authorship, she seems like a big deal. So, and it is kind of this, I don't know, I think maybe obviously for people younger, I don't know if it's still, but it was another one of those books that I remember everybody kind of at a point, at least seeing it and people talking about it, and especially the miniseries. But so for me, what's wild is I guess you do this with every place, but Australia, there's parts in this book again where they talk about giving land away, and basically the portions of land that they're giving is the size of the continental United States. And so I'm it just kind of blows my mind that Australia is that big. And I always think of it just being what you see on TV, which is either Sydney or the Opera House, but it's got a very kind of varied geography.
It is, yeah. So basically there's this large series of mountain ranges on the eastern, southern part of the continent. And on one side of that, it's basically California. And there, there's some variation in the climates, but that's where you have cities like Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane. On the other side of it, the I guess environment gets dramatically different and drier, and my best guess is when they are giving away this land that's the size of the continent of the United States, it's because you need that much land to make it productive. I again, I've only flown over it, but I understand it's a beautiful part of the country. And there are some parts on the other side of this mountain range that are, farmland and that. But it gets very difficult to raise anything. Everything that naturally lives there is kind of a specialist species. And it can be kind of a rough go. When you think of the characters moving from New Zealand, where everything grows and is green, to this kind of harsh landscape,
I don't want to cite Bill Bryson. Everything I know about Australia comes from Bill Bryson, Victoria Holt novels, and books like this, like the Thornbirds. He talks about taking the train all the way across, and that he was in like this first class car, and it was super nice, and there's like this observation car, and they treat you like a king and all, and he got off at like whatever stop it was, and he like poked his head into second class, and like, oh, now I understand why they don't let people move between the cars. I thought those people were going to eat me because they've been sitting up for 2 days, like in a non-reclining seat for 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My relationship with Australia is basically like the Crocodile Dundee movies and then Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So it's like that kind of,
Oh yeah, that too. Yes.
Yeah, and then the Victoria Holt novels that we've read. But yeah, so.
And I mean, you can, like, as a person, drive from between city to city. People do it, but it's not that common. Like, I have a friend that's driving from Melbourne to Adelaide today, which is about an 8-hour drive, and I just don't think that happens all that much. It's kind of, he's taking 10 days to go there and back. So, and another thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Well, in that Bill Bryson book, they mentioned that it's very scientifically underdescribed, that like botanically and like arthropod wise, like that only a tiny fraction of Australia's flora and fauna has and probably ever will be described, because it's out there. You had to go and find it, and there is a lot of out there, and there's only so many scientists to do it, and probably a lot of it is dying from climate change, and we'll never know what it was, which is kind of awe-inspiring that there's still a place that's like that, right? That where you could go somewhere and like not everything that you see would even have a scientific name.
Yeah, it is. And I think of that same book, just, speaking about the remoteness, I think he pointed out that was possibly a nuclear device exploded in the middle of the desert. Yeah. And nobody even really knew.
Yeah. Well, that happened in North Carolina, and, that's the same thing.
Yeah. Another thing that's mentioned in the book is when they go to cut sugarcane in the far north of Queensland. And I have been there, and it's, a 4-hour flight from where I am on the southern tip of the continent. It's very tropical rainforest, lots of fauna and things that are beautiful and might kill you if you're not careful. And it's also, even the parts that I don't know, it is also quite remote in its own way, just because it's very difficult to get through some of the forests, and the infrastructure that's there, easily gets washed out. And so that's another place that they spent their time. But as far as Drogheda, the homestead.
I love how you say that. Please keep saying that.
I know, like somebody say it for us. Somebody just say, yeah, you're the one who has to say it.
I did notice the IMDb trivia. No, they say it wrong in the miniseries. Like, evidently, they say it wrong throughout. I've not seen the miniseries, but they say it wrong all through it.
But doesn't everybody also have like an American accent throughout that? Like, they just didn't even try.
Yeah.
Oh, well, why not?
Which is probably for the best, because I mean, I'm a speech pathologist in Australia, and I don't attempt the accent. So, yeah, but well, in confession time. So I read the book a while ago, and then needed to catch up really quickly, so I listened to a book on tape. So I'm assuming that the nice Australian lady who was pronouncing all these words was saying that correctly. But who knows? But so that place obviously was remote, but still within, it sounds like the sphere of influence of Sydney. You know, the people kind of went back and forth.
They sent their kids to school in Sydney, you know, which I know, like in like way out in the outback, they send their kids, like they used to call it the school of the air, right? Like that, like they don't send their kids anywhere because there's nowhere to send your kids. That they had like distance learning, like way before Zoom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and there's still like a service called the Royal Flying. I'm saying it wrong, but there's doctors that get in planes and go out very far places. This
I guess I've also read. I read like Jane Harper books, so I know about like murder in the outback. And about murder and like spite mansions. That's I apologize to all Australian people who might be listening to this. Yeah. I'm here for a spite mansion. Don't get me wrong.
We're more than just spite mansions.
Tell the Tourism Bureau to start with that.
This book was published in 1977. Colleen McCullough is, in fact, Australian. She was born in New South Wales. She died in 2015 at the age of 77. And she's written some other books, but this was kind of her big book. She had done this one and then the Masters of Rome series.
Which is delightful, by the way. If you haven't read any of those, they're really good. Yes. That's what I had read of her. I had not read this one, but I had read First Man in Rome.
Yes. So she has received, in 1978, she received the Golden Plate Award of the American Academy of Achievement. In 1984, a portrait was painted of her. So she's pretty big deal. She's got a plate. She's got a portrait. She was also...
So she's somebody's grandma from the South? I mean, that just kind of sounds like when you go to somebody's house.
She was appointed an officer of the Order of Australia, very much like our previous author, Valerie Parr. So the Thornbirds. The Thornbirds, again, was published in 1977. It's a family saga, and I think that it would have been, I mean, it was a popular book, obviously, but I think it would have just kind of died in pop culture kind of remembrance if it hadn't been for the Thornbirds miniseries. That came out in March of 1983. It was 4 episodes, and it was huge. Like, it's still behind Roots. It's the most kind of like widely watched, biggest miniseries of all time. It starred Richard Chamberlain, Rachel Ward, Barbara Stanwyck, Christopher Plummer, Piper Laurie, Gene Simmons, Richard Kiley, Brian Brown, of course Brian Brown's in it, and Mayor Winningham, one of my favorites.
We should tell, if we have younger listeners, that miniseries used to be event TV. Like, that they would do these things like this one, and like War and Remembrance, and like Shogun, and like Roots, and everybody would watch it, and it was huge. Like they would get these enormous shares of the TV thing, and then they would come out on video like way later. They were this huge boxes, and people would. I mean, it was like enormous, and for some reason, Richard Chamberlain was in all of them.
The Richard Chamberlain game. So, the Thornbirds. The cover that I have isn't very exciting. It's just, well, I mean, it's got Richard Chamberlain and Rachel Ward on it.
No, I've got a vintage one. And it's kind of like a sort of cool and modern, and it's got like a thorn tree through the middle of it, and it's got the Thornbirds. But the cool thing,
that's the first edition cover.
I picked this up at a used bookstore, and I love it when a book has like whoever bought it like wrote their name in it and the year. Like, I always think that's so sweet. So, yeah, we'll dedicate this to Joan Wayman, 1977.
Mine has
I
one
hope
in
you
it
liked
too,
it, Joan. But you probably
can't read
died,
her
and all your books
name.
went to the used bookstore.
Mine belonged to somebody too, but I can't make out her name. I'm not good with.
Mine did not, but as you'll see, it has like a wine stain on it now. So that's
Nice. Yes,
That's appropriate.
definitely
that's the way-
appropriate.
That's good.
So the Thornbirds. Okay. Also, I'm drinking a Australian wine called Scissors Kick Cellars. It's got a kangaroo on it. We got a lot of kangaroos in there. There's love making on a kangaroo rug, which I was very excited about. First of all, that there's rug love making, which surprisingly we haven't had a lot of. I've been expecting more rug love making in these books, but also that it was that it was like, hey, it's Australian. We got kangaroo rugs, so. And it's anybody else drinking anything exciting?
I am drinking a lovely Syrah from Innocent Bystander, which is a winery here in Victoria. But they also have some vineyards in New Zealand. So that's a nod to the characters and I think the author's Kiwi heritage.
Nice.
My husband got the last beer, so I'm drinking a LaCroix. Very upset about this.
And I believe that this is available on wine.com occasionally. So not just in Australia. Which is where, my family gets the bulk of their gifts from now that I live on the other side of the planet. So.
I got some Australian wines. I got, you sent me for Christmas these, like a set of wines, and I had there was like a sparkling rosé I had on New Year's Day.
The Tassie rosé?
Yes, and it was the best thing. It was the best thing ever. It was the best, sparkling rosé I've had. Mm-hmm. So the book starts off with, we follow the Cleary family, the most Irish family in the world. We've got Paddy McPatterson as the dad. No, his name is Paddy Patrick, and his wife, Fiona. You find out later that Fiona had been born of, they're originally in New Zealand, and that she is basically kind of like New Zealand landed gentry. Like, she is very much, old family. And as the book unfolds, you find out that she kind of she marries way beneath her. But I can't remember what they're doing in New Zealand.
Not much. He's like shearing sheep, and they're I don't know, eating dirt. They're eating dirt sandwiches, and there's 20 of them.
Yeah, there's one girl, Meggie the girl, who has magic auburn hair, and that's what starts.
Most of them are not important, but Meggie is important, and the oldest brother Jack is important.
Frank.
Frank? Jesus Christ! I'm sorry. I read this book a month ago, which should be shortly enough to remember things, but no, because I remember specific things, that doll getting busted up real well, and then half of it I'm like, I don't know. They.
That's what happens in these, because this is almost a 700-page book, and it reads really quickly, but, these family sagas, they're so dense. And again, it's nothing happens and everything happens, and you get kind of confused. Yeah. So, yes, they have...
This one is, it's not the generational kind. I mean, it is, but, so Meggie is alive in the beginning and alive in the end, so it's not the kind where, you're now on people's great-grandkids, which means that, all their lives are done in such detail. Yeah. You're like, wait, was any of that important?
Yeah. So they're eating dirt sandwiches, but at least New Zealand's nice and green and damp. There's Meggie, who at the time is the youngest. Her parents are in their mid to upper 30s. Frank is her oldest brother, and she adores Frank. There's a couple of brothers in the middle, but, they don't really matter too much. And you come to find out, they're scraping by. They're just trying to, forge out this life. The book opens, and I was infuriated. Meggie had gotten, it was her birthday, and I want to say it was her 4th or 5th birthday.
Yeah, it was her 4th.
And she had gotten a doll from the store. Her parents had store bought her a doll, and then her brothers immediately take it and ruin it. And the dad's like, oh, well. I was like, no, that's not how that would read. That man spent money on that.
Beat their asses, up and down and sideways, and But I guess it matters that he and Frank are the two that have the two that just cannot coexist well.
Right.
Everybody else kind of has their place in the family. It's a hard family, but there's love in it. It's like that. But,
well, and notably, Frank does not look like the rest of these mini brothers and the rest of the family.
He's very dark, where the other ones are all, looking basically like
a face like the map of Ireland.
Basically like the janitor from The Simpsons, even though he's Scottish.
Oh, now the Irish people are going to be mad at us. We have the Aussies and now, because that dude is absolutely
so much hate mail.
Scottish.
Yeah. But again, Paddy McPatterson with his potato face and, red hair. And so, but Frank is dark and the rest of the kids are like straight up red hair, except for Meggie, who's got the magic auburn hair, which we'll get into later.
And Frank is also short and very I don't know, I guess well built, which becomes
kind of
later.
Compact.
And he's the blacksmith.
Sturdy.
Yeah, kind of Napoleon syndrome. Yeah.
So all these people are miserable in their own way. Like there's this awful school, and it's just misery upon misery upon misery. Except that at least it rains there.
Yeah, it's very Irish Catholic that way. Everyone's miserable, but it's raining.
And just when you think she has got to be done having babies, like they've got to be. No, they're never done having babies.
Yeah, so she gets pregnant again. She gets pregnant like twice more, but they eventually get a letter from, you kind of go from them to this dusty kind of like outback large farm that's a sheep plantation or a sheep station is what they call it. And there's this woman named Mary Carson, and she is a stone cold bitch, and I kind of love her. And she is talking to this pastor, this priest, Ralph. The name got me, like Ralph.
And Ralph is like this thoroughbred racehorse of a priest.
Well, it's Ralph de Bricassar.
Oh, yes. He has a ridiculous name, and it has Ralph at the beginning.
Yes.
And he's just, seriously, nobody sees through this man except for, like, way at the end of the book, because this man is just, like, a ridiculous human.
Yeah.
Like,
Ralph,
he's not sexy.
His middle name was Raoul, I remember that. So they're having this conversation, and you find out that she is Paddy's well-to-do sister. So she's like, well, I don't have any kids. My husband's dead. So everything I've got is going to go to this son of a bitch who's over in New Zealand. I'm just going to go ahead and bring his family here so I can teach him how to do stuff, So the family packs up and moves from New Zealand, where it's, damp, but they're poor, to this, and it's a harrowing journey. The wife who is pregnant almost falls out several times because, this book starts in the early, like it's in the 19-teens. I want to say like 1911 or something like that. It's just this long, long journey, and they get to this place where it's just dusty. And they're less poor, but they're still like, it's hard work. This is not an easy job.
Treats them like, she does not treat them like family.
Yeah.
They do not come into, okay, there's this big house, and hilariously, somewhere in the back of my head, I still was in a Victoria Hall book, so I was sure it was going to be a weird spite replica of some British house. I guess I've read too many of those books. No, this enormous house, it's just fancy and nice, but they had to live in the overseer's cottage, which is still good for them. But
it's better than the shack they had in New Zealand.
Oh yeah,
it's like a upgraded shack.
But it kind of creates this thing that keeps going where they're satisfied with much less than they can have, throughout the book.
It's wild.
Yeah, which I guess is the way to be. You don't want to be expecting more than So you're just happy to have a door that closes, but it's miserable because it's dusty and all this, and you learn all about the this farm life is rough, y'all. They castrate the sheep with their teeth, and that's weird.
I don't remember
That's unexpected for me.
I don't remember that part. Maybe
I remember that very well.
I'm not. But maybe I just blocked it out. But yeah,
they're really into shooting dogs.
They are constantly bringing up the dog shooting. If this dog ain't good, it's getting shot. But okay, so it's here that Maggie, she's around 10, because it took me a little bit to figure out the math, because I was like, she's 10. Father Ralph is in his mid-20s. He sees her and is beguiled. And I will say, Colleen McCullough makes a very good point of always being he didn't see her that way until blank. He didn't see her that way until blank. But he sees this child with her golden hair and is enamored with her.
I don't like it.
Well, I don't think anybody loves it. I'm not yeah. But
Well, Father Ralph loves God first, then he loves himself second, and then like whatever else is left over.
He loves himself
Father Ralph is
first.
very impressed.
Like God is very distant on that thing. Like Father Ralph is Father Ralph.
He talks about God all the time, though. Of these 700 pages, at least 200 is Father Ralph going on about God. Well, meanwhile, there's this weird fucking scene, okay, with the old lady, where like he stands there out naked in the rain, and she's all like, "Yeah, I bet you think I wouldn't fuck you," and it was weird.
So the family essentially, like, they grow, and Meggie gets older. Her mother has a son named Hal, and then she has 2 twins. The twins are the youngest, and Frank is just incensed because she's in her 40s, and he's like, just leave her alone. And Frank and his mom have this very special, like, there's a whole lot of like mother-son relationships in this book.
But we should say Fiona is very shut down. Like she's not a demonstrative person at all. So like you can't like get anything out of her. She gives you nothing. She gives you like the blank face, which is like kind of a major theme of the book, I guess, of different ways for women to be. Because you have the evil mom, the evil sister, Mary. You have the mom who's like very cold in her own way. There's all these kind of different models of woman, and Fiona is pretty hard to have as your mom. She is not there with a hug and a cookie. I guess you might get the cookie, but you're not going to get the hug. Okay, so like lots of stuff happens, like we said, lots of stuff that doesn't, lots and nothing happen. I guess the first big thing that happens is that Father Ralph takes her and Frank to the fair. You figure that's like that's the big one?
Sure, I'm trying to remember that part.
Well, that's where so there's this boxing tent, and Frank wants to box because
yes.
and he knows Paddy would be upset with him, but he wants to do it anyway because he hates his dad. His dad, because we all, if you have eyes in your head and you've read a book before, obviously that Frank is not Paddy's
right.
son. But so like, and he goes and he does well in the boxing. He does all right in the boxing at least, but Paddy finds out, and they had this big old fight, and in the fight, Paddy just has to go and say, I knew you were never my son. And that's like the thing that you can't say. Like that's the, and so, and Frank leaves with the boxers. Like that's it. And like that's it. And Ralph is like, well, okay. So Meggie, just like, don't tell your mom, okay? Like any of this, like just don't tell your mom any of this. That's how they just deal with this, is that because like Ralph, I guess, is so involved with the family now, he doesn't want like Paddy and Fee to split over this, since like there's no game.
Well, and take Meggie away from him either.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's and like she sleeps in his bed, not in a gross way, but I don't know. I think all of this is kind of in a gross way.
Yeah.
He reads. It's not the way that it's written, that she writes about his interactions with this little girl. It's the way that he is just like a person to me who is not a solid person. I feel that he's kind of a gross dude in general.
Yeah, and he doesn't really do anything that in today's world would be illegal until she reaches an age of consent. But it's just all this relationship building with a young child, and this excusing of having this special relationship with somebody because God, or because I'm a father figure and her family's kind of shitty.
Like she spent a lot of time like staying at the rectory, like like the servants there like think of her as like an extra kid. It's groomy. The whole thing is groomy. It's just that he doesn't pursue an actual sexual relationship with her until she's an adult. But don't like it. Don't like it. So like that's like the big thing that happens like when she's a child is Frank goes away under this kind of cloud, and he doesn't want his mom to contact him.
Yes. And that actually, there was another incident that I guess sealed the deal. It's when Fee gets pregnant again, and Frank is just, pissed off about everything anyway, but he's like, I don't know, it just has that mother-son relationship where he doesn't like his stepdad, fucking his mom. And so I'm going to go to Sydney and be a boxer.
Yeah. So like all these things happen, and she was really close. Meggie, I keep saying Meggie because Meggie is not a name that makes sense. It ought to be Maggie or nothing. But yeah, Meggie is close to Frank, and that's something else that she's lost now, and she's still stuck at this place. So really, Ralph is her only close relationship with another person, which is not a healthy and normal thing.
Well, she does have a close relationship with one of her brothers that she's like pretty much raising because he can't be bothered.
Yeah, but he dies.
Yeah, that's right. There's so many brothers, you forget. Okay.
Like, so he dies. The twins are pretty much raising themselves, like in that twin way that they are. And then there's all these other fucking brothers, and none of them matter. They're just there to like fill out the cast of characters at the beginning. They're all very taciturn Irish, like sunburned people, and that's all you need to know about them. So like she continues to grow up and go to school, and it's all this like detail about their lives. I guess, does Paddy die before the party?
No, he dies after.
Yeah, because it still goes to him. The party is the next big thing. It's
yeah. Well, and I think the relationship between Mary Carson, the Paddy's sister who owns a plantation, kind of mentioned that she sees Ralph naked and they have this exchange, but she's kind of, I think, the one person that Ralph really sees as an equal, or that he respects, and they have like this really interesting relationship. But Mary's 70 something, and
I think it's her 80th birthday that the party is. So
is that
like I think so. It's something like that. It's a big deal about her birthday.
Yeah, and she wants to have a romantic relationship with Ralph and gets pissed off that Maggie is getting all of his attention.
I'm not even sure if she wants a romantic relationship. I guess she always says that she doesn't, that she's too old for it, but maybe she's kind of, I don't know. And he has to suck up to her because he committed some sort of indiscretion. He was like the up and comer priest, and now he's the back of beyond priest, and that's because he he like
offended a bishop or something and got sent to the outback.
Yeah, and so therefore, like he knows, like, here's all this money. If I can bring this money in for the church, then my star will rise again. So he's got to keep her in. He's got to stay in her good graces. But it's funny because like you get the idea that he hates her, but yeah, it's the only person that he really respects and doesn't think that he's smarter than. Like he thinks that he is definitely the smartest guy in the room at all times, and she's very jealous of him, and she notices the things that he doesn't think that anybody else notices because he thinks that he's so smart. So you see her before this party. She has had her will forever, and she dictates a will that you don't see in the book before the party, like, and she has it properly witnessed and everything, but she's obviously planning some fucking bullshit, some devious. It's great. I love her. Like some real bitch shit is gonna, which I think
she has the will changed, like takes this will right after a fight that she had with him, and was basically like, I want you, but you don't want me, and I'm gonna fuck you over, kind of thing.
And I think she saw him like with the girl doing, again, nothing that you would call the cops over, but something that you would not invite him over again.
Right.
For like something that you would be very concerned and maybe like write to Dear Abby about. I don't remember what it was, but it was like not cool. Like, he's always getting her alone. So I mean, like, this lady is not, her motives are not pure or kind, but the direction of her thinking is correct.
Yes.
So then they had this big party. And what's the name of this damn estate? It starts with a D. They're always talking about it.
Drogheda.
So like they for miles around, everybody comes to this enormous party, and it's like it's the 20s at this point, so everybody's wearing their cute little flapper outfits, and like Meggie gets like a cute flapper dress made in ashes of roses, which will come up over and over and over again, and it's like dancing, and it's this huge ass big deal. And of course, Father Ralph's going to be there in his oh god, what do they call it? Like the vestments that are like the close cut ones with the buttons on the front, and
his slim fit vestments.
Yeah. His slim fit, his athletic fit vestments that everybody's like, he looks so well in them. And it's just like everybody's gonna stay there. It's like that big party, like in Gone with the Wind, like picture.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's this massive estate, so people really aren't going to go home. It's an all-nighter, and you just know people are going to be like drunk and pass out on the floor, and that's.
I mean, they've come for days. Like this is the event of like the decade for these people, and it's a big deal and everything. And then she calls in Father Ralph to her room when everybody's going to going to bed, and she's like, "So, I'm gonna die." He's like, "You're not gonna die. You have many years, you know, in front of you, you amazing, nice lady." And she's like, "No. I've decided I'm gonna fucking die. Suicide's a sin. Oh no, I'm not gonna kill myself. I have just decided that I am done and I'm going to die." Like, okay. And I have written 2 wills, Ralph. And you're the only person who knows about the second one. So you are going to have to decide, Ralph, where your loyalty lies and what kind of person you are, Ralph. And then he's like, "That was really fucking weird." And so she hands him this envelope, and she says, "You open that. You see me dead. You look at my dead face, and before they bury me, you open this envelope." And he's like, "Okay, that's really fucking weird. I'm going to bed. Are you like going to bed?" and then damn if she doesn't fucking die. And for some reason, it's gross. It's like super. I guess it's like her soul rot has now become evident.
Yeah, and they talk about this a lot too. Just like how putrid she becomes, like super quickly, and there's just flies caking her body, and yeah,
like they had to like keep her in the sheet. It's been like 4 hours, y'all. Like this is not the normal process of decay. I mean, I know it's like a hot place, but yeah, it's obviously sort of symbolic. And so, and he has to go in there and he has to do like the extreme munching thing. He's like, "Whoa, this is gross." Like, oh crap! Like, so I saw her dead damn face. I need to look at the paper she handed me. This is stupid. I'm gonna look at it. And the first will, let me get this right. The first will, everything went to Paddy. Like, guess what? Everything goes to Paddy. Second will, everything goes to Father Ralph. Like, they get plenty to stay on. Like, you know, they get to stay in the house as long as they have, like, male heirs or whatever. They have a lovely living, but they don't get, this is millions, like $13 million.
Yeah, so they get to stay on Drogheda and manage it and get an allowance, and they'll be fine. And never really want for anything, but this, you know, it kind of comes out, hey, she wasn't just rich because she had this sheep station. She was rich because she had this company. This, you know, in today's money would be probably billions of dollars.
Oh, it's one of the biggest companies in Australia, evidently. It's enormous. And that's all. And if he wants to be like a fucking bishop, guess what? This is bishop money.
Yeah.
But like it says that he can't, like, it doesn't go to the church. It goes to him. And then, like, you know, it's his to decide who gets it after he dies. But so this is not a donation to the church. This is a big fat, like, temptation on the mount for Father Ralph.
Yeah, because the choice is, you know, you can either take this money and become the bishop and cardinal and blah, 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 you've always wanted to be, but you're going to have to leave Meggie behind. Or you can fuck over Meggie and the entire family and just, yeah.
And it's also the question of what's right, because yes, this is her last will. I mean, your last will is your last will. On the other hand, is it really right that Paddy and his family worked all this time with the understanding that they would get this place? And yeah, she could have at least left the house and all to them and like left the company to him. But no, she wanted to be an asshole, which, you know, is it morally right to take the last will, or is it morally right to make sure that the money goes to the people who deserve to have the money? Or is it morally right for Father Ralph to do well in life?
Well, there's the whole question of, like, nobody even knew about this company and her, you know, relationship to it. So nobody knew that there was $13 million waiting in the wings. But at the same time, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of moral questions because it was her money to do with what she wanted to. But yeah.
And that's usually my answer when somebody says, hey, was it right for somebody to do that in their will? I'm like, well, it was their money. You know, you have no claim on other people's money unless you had some kind of understanding. Now it's different if like you know, like I'm gonna move in with grandma and I'm gonna change her sheets and her bedpan until she dies, and then I'm going to get the house, and then you know grandma gives it to the cats. Like that's shitty. But like you know, normally unless there's an understanding, it's their money and they can do what they want to with it. But it does reveal.
But
I
it's
think
also
that Father Ralph is a shithead.
Yeah, well, and it was done out of a shitty motive, like, you know, I hate you because you never loved me, so let me fuck over the rest of my family, and you have to choose to benefit from it.
Yeah. So, and of course he chooses Father Ralph because of course he chooses Father Ralph. Yeah. So, like, after the funeral, like, he actually tells Meggie $13 million. Like, looks her in the eye and says $13 million.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, and it's interesting because, you know, when that comes out, Paddy, who, again, has kind of settled for, well, this cottage that I'm in is better than the shack I was in New Zealand, is satisfied with his lot in life. Like, oh, I can deal with an allowance in the sheep station, where Meggie kind of gets it, and several times throughout the book refers to, like, these 13 million pieces of silver. Like, you know, she got sold out by her lover. Well,
and I mean, like, you know, they are very comfortable, and they get to completely, like, Fiona moves back, like, they don't move immediately because they want to, like, think about it and everything, but they do, like, this is a huge up for them. Like, they are moving on up, like, they are moving into the big house, and so Fiona's, like, painting and shit, and she's, for once, looking engaged with the world, and she's packing up the china. She has a couple nice things from when she was, you know, like New Zealand, like aristocracy. So the china and like the spinet and, you know, like a few pieces of furniture. She's packing up her china in newspapers. They've been too busy to read the newspaper. And then, God damn it, if she doesn't see an old newspaper that Frank got in a fight and killed somebody in a bar fight and was sentenced to life in prison. And that's it for Fee's good day.
Yeah, well, and everybody else is, because they, you know, they see that she's happy for all of 5 minutes, and everybody's like, "Oh, great, she's happy. Let's keep this going." And then Frank comes and ruins it all again.
Yeah, and she can't. She knows, like, she's not even supposed to be like writing it up to Frank, but I mean, like, she knows that Frank wouldn't want him, and Ralph, I think, comes to talk to them. I want to say, and says like, "Hey, yeah, I heard." And I talked to Frank. I went to the prison because I'm a priest to do that. And I talked to Frank, and he do not tell. I mean, like, if he thought that Fee knew what had happened, it would just kill him. So keep your fucking mouth shut. I mean, don't write, don't, and of course that's just
yeah. And I think it says in the newspaper article that she read, like, his one quote after being sentenced is, "Don't tell my mother."
Yeah.
Yeah. But so if they make an arrangement with Ralph, he's kind of watching over Frank and, you know, making sure he's okay and doesn't get a shiv in the shower or whatever, you know, in prison. But always, I don't know, from afar, and they never really directly interact with Frank while he's in prison for 30 years.
Yeah. And it's really sad because, like, everybody was kind of like, they saw Fee, like, actually, like, you know, really, like, seeming happy and interlocking and interacting with the world in a way that she never had before. So they were all like tiptoe, like, "Oh, don't piss your mama off," like, and then, God damn it, like, she didn't have to see that damn newspaper.
Yeah,
she couldn't have done anything about it anyway, right? Okay, so Fee is sad again, but they are in the big house, and that's nice. And like, she has definite opinions on Mary's taste. Like, she thinks it is tacky as shit. She hates everything about it. Like, the fact that the rugs are square to the walls. Like, it's the 20s, so like, she wants this very you know, very au courant look to it. So she wants those rugs scattered. God damn it.
But it's kind of nice, too, because you see this person that Fee was when she was an aristocrat and supposedly happy, and then she's kind of picking that up again, and I don't know, like, being more empowered in her own life. So
yeah, she doesn't seem happier, but she does seem more empowered, exactly, because the house has always been her domain, and now her house is huge and awesome. So, you know, I guess that's like a natural expansion of her domain. Whereas, like, you know, Paddy got to come up when they moved there because, like, you know, the entire station has been his, like, outdoor kind of thing. So, like, throughout all this next 1,000 pages, Ralph will come and go, right? Like he'll show up for a bit. If he moves to Italy, eventually he moves. Wait, does he move to Sydney first and then to?
Yeah. So right after he gets the inheritance, he goes to Sydney and is a secretary to the Archbishop there, who I think he kind of follows around, who gets promoted. They go to Italy at some point, and he just kind of moves up in the Vatican, becomes more and more important.
So like he's sort of nearby for a while, and like some of the kids go to school in city, so he's available to show up when things happen, but then eventually he's overseas. Mm-hmm. So things are going relatively well. There's all sorts of like weather related. It wouldn't be an Australian big book if there weren't like fires and there was like droughts and big Australian weather things.
Yeah, and one of those Paddy dies because he gets burned to a crisp in a
and it's
fire.
It should be. I mean, it's almost funny because Paddy dies in this very kind of tragic way. That like the fire starts with a lightning strike, like almost like right on top of him. And they don't know that he's dead because of course the place is like a bazillion acres. So like this huge fire happened, but for all they know, he's anywhere. But one of the sons that I don't remember the name of because it doesn't matter. Finds him and is alone, and they had like a shots like shoot your gun for this if you find him, or this if you whatever. And he shot his gun a few too many times because shooting his gun the first time made this boar come out of the undergrowth. And then so he didn't have any more shells, and the boar gores him to death like right on top of his father's body. Guess what? Ha ha. Like it's just human misery. They're in this like deeply ludicrous.
And it was like one of the sons that Fee liked too, so of course she's his consulate.
Yeah,
on a personal note, can I say that of all the things that I knew I needed to be afraid of in Australia, like snakes and spiders, I didn't know we had fucking boars here, so I have to watch out for them now too.
Well, evidently you had to you should always watch out for boars because boars are like really dangerous. But I guess I didn't know that they were a thing there also. But the drop bears, they'll get you though.
Right.
So all these awful things happen, and like they have to figure out a way to get the bodies back. And Father Ralph comes, and Father Ralph helps, and they come out like these like complicated ways to drag like on a piece of roofing. But they even take the time to point out that their bodies, although have been like burned and gored by a boar's tusk and all this, are still not gross. Unlike Mary's fly-blown, revolting corpse. Like she's still making value judgments about the quality of dead people that that he gets to deal with. So like he sees Meggie again, of course, at her father's funeral, and it's awful. But I think that she's kind of like she's finally realized now that like okay, this is fucking it.
Because he like I think like they kiss, and then he rebuffs her advances, and then she's kind of like, you're a dick, and starts treating him that way.
And like, you're gone, and I have to kind of and he even says you should find one of these nice boys, because for one thing, like the will has these kind of odd strictures. Well, I guess odd for now, but somebody needs to have some babies, and it better be a boy. It's kind of like a Jane Austen entailment kind of thing, that like the house can stay and the income can stay with Paddy and sons of his body, and these boys are also freaking shy that they're not meeting anybody, so I guess her getting married is not going to help. But so there's it's right after this, right, that she meets Luke.
So Luke comes on as a farmhand. And looks amazingly like Ralph. So of course she's smitten with him, and of course he's an absolute dick too. But like a super obvious dick, not a dick that's fooling anybody.
Well, she's like 17 though. I mean, like she's not. But it's like, because like, okay, so first we see it from her eyes, and he's like this really hot dude who wants to take her on dates, and then we see it quite soon after from his eyes, and he's like, he has tried to marry every like rich farmer's daughter, like going all the way out the coast, because like he's one of those guys who like he's a real hard worker. So he might be an asshole, he might hit you, but he's not lazy. all he had to work for a living, and he wants to work his way into being a landowner, and that's all he cares about is the work and the money.
Yeah,
so,
and he doesn't want to inherit the money, although he doesn't mind like taking the money that is his wife's and making that dream happen, which he effectively does.
Yes. So like he woos her fairly effectively, tries to put a move on. It doesn't so he's like, okay, all right, playing the long game, try to grab a titty. Didn't. So but he's playing the long game, and she kind of feels she does get kind of railroaded, I guess. She kind of knows what she's doing, but she kind of doesn't know as much as she thinks she does what she's doing. And she does not know this guy very well, and they do get married. And she doesn't want to have a big wedding, which, hurts her mom's feelings. Because, I think partly she doesn't want Father Ralph to come. Because I think she's ashamed already, that she's made this choice. And immediately it sucks balls. It's awful. Immediately he's like, okay, so we're gonna go on a honeymoon, and by honeymoon I mean we're gonna go by train to the ball sack of Australia, and I'm going to work for 80 hours a week, and you're going to be a slave. So that's my plan for a honeymoon. Sorry, I didn't mention that until we got there. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, and so they go up to far north Queensland, which is where I mentioned it's all rainforest and where crocodiles, where the really crazy shit lives that wants to kill you. And apparently they go sugarcane, and his dream is to make it rich by cutting down sugarcane. And it's funny how he talks about sugarcane. It's I don't know.
It's very funny because McCullough even brings up he'd never heard of the idea of being homosexual. But he cares not just about the sugarcane, but about kind of the manly sugarcane culture. He likes to be around the other workers, especially the one guy. He's the straw boss for, I don't remember the guy's name, but they just hang. I was are you saying that they're involved, or are you just saying that he can't imagine that, but he
sugarcane love.
Loving the cane. So it's incredibly backbreaking, grueling, 7-day-a-week work, but he wouldn't have it any other way, and he's addicted to it. So, but he tells her on the train there, he's okay, so I probably should have mentioned this before now, but I'm not, we're not doing one of those newfangled fucking marriages, your money's my money, right? And she's okay, that's how I always figured people do it. Because and again, family,
this whole cycle of and I think that obviously was part of the culture and custom at the time, but it's also, I think, this symptom of everybody in their family just being satisfied with a lot less than they can have.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they said, she certainly came up in a house where the house is her mother's domain, but her mother is extremely subservient to her father, who is kind of this hard-handed man. And of course, so she, she's accustomed to that. But I mean, this is uniquely awful. There is the least sexy sex scenes in the world happen because they get to this hotel, and she's about to throw up anyway because she's very train sick. And but he wants to have sex with her, but he does not want any children because that would absolutely derail his very complex 5-year plan. He's got the brochure for the property he wants to buy, and he knows exactly how much sugarcane he has to cut to get that. And obviously having a baby would interrupt all of that. So they have this awful, painful, very non-consensual sex, but he insists on wearing a condom for all of it. And she just I guess this is how it's supposed to be. And then he dumps her at this house to be the servant of these people, and he goes off to the sugarcane. He just leaves her for months.
Which is obviously a good thing because he's out in the fields rolling around with other sugarcane cutters, and she's with these nice people who, I mean, on its face, it was a shitty thing to do, but he's just never there. He might show up once a month. So it's kind of this, I don't really have to see him. I just have to put up with this French sleeve sex once a month. And
not even that, I think, because he's she's always expecting him and he never shows up. But like, she's very lucky because these people are so freaking nice.
Yeah.
You know, like the lady has some kind of like leg disability, I guess, like and she's fragile, and so she's not able. She needs help around the house. And the guy is just like this sweet, friendly guy, and she's in a safe place, and she's, you know, very lucky. But I mean, she's miserable in general because her husband is a piece of shit. But she doesn't feel like she can tell them at home. Like, because of course these people, like, she is now a wealthy person, even though she can't keep any of her money at all. So I mean, she could always say, "Mom, please send a money order. I need to come back." But yeah, she can't. She just can't do that, you know, for whatever reason. And I guess she has decided, in a way, that what would fix all of this is a baby.
Because babies fix everything.
Yes, babies historically have been great relationship fixers.
Right. So the plan becomes, how do I get the French sleeve off his dick?
Yes, which turns out not to be that difficult because he's just not that smart. So she does. I guess you could say she stealths him. It is non-consensual on his behalf. But she does like make off with that sweet sperm.
Well, I mean, at some point he figures it out, and I think they both like it. And it was actually probably the most, I don't know, the moment where they enjoyed each other's company the most in their entire relationship.
The whole thing was awful. The whole thing is terrible. This is not a good relationship model. Do not hold these people up. So, but then he leaves again. You know, and he's mad at her too, because, like, you know, I guess she writes him and says, "Hey, guess what? Who's pregnant?" And he's like, I told you we weren't doing that. Now you've made the 5-year plan a 10-year plan, and I'm just gonna have to stay here in the sugarcane for that much longer. I'm trying to remember how Ralph ends up there, though.
Does he hear that she's pregnant? Or did somebody else die? I don't know. Like,
he ends up there. I guess he's trying to see her, and she's
when you
busy
need a plot
having a baby.
device. Here's what the brothers were for. Like, if you needed a plot device, you just killed one of them off, so then the other characters had to talk to each other.
Yeah, and that's, you know, maybe that's the idea behind large Catholic families. Honestly, there's lots of people I only see at funerals, so I guess maybe that's the idea. So he shows up, and she's all like in the middle of childbirth, and it's frankly not going well. So he's like, "Oh well, all right, give me the boil some water. let's deal with this." And she's actually honest with him about, like, this is terrible. This is all a mistake. The man is awful with me. He hits me. He rapes me. He has left me here with these admittedly nice people, while his 5-year plan is now a 20-year plan, and it all involves sugarcane. And I don't know what to do. And well, he gives her them. Wait, what exactly happens? Because she's got the baby. Does he leave then and come back like years later or something?
Yeah, it wasn't too. So he was there for the birth of her first child, Justine. Who
is Luke's baby?
Should we mention? Yeah. Luke's baby, who's kind of colicky and non-affectionate, and a difficult birth and all that. And then, I don't remember why he comes back up.
No. I know. I remember now because the people who own the house that she stays with are very nice, but they kind of rat her out. They send her to this resort. It's kind of off season. It's like shoulder season. And usually it's like a couple's resort. But they're like, "You need a vacation. We're going to pay for you to go. All right. And you just need to go and figure your shit out. Like, go take a swim in Lake U, get your shit together, and, like, you know, decide what you need to do with your life. Okay. Because obviously you're kind of at a crossroads here. Do you need to go home? Do you need to go somewhere else? Whatever you need to do, take some time. Think about it." And then they tell Father Ralph where she is. I'm pretty sure they do, because I forget.
I think so.
They go out of the way, or like if he shows up looking for her, and they're like, "Well, I'll tell you where she's not at." And he comes, and then he comes.
Yeah. So he shows up, and she's like, you know, she's basically got the resort to herself, walking around the beach naked, having a great time, and there comes Father Ralph. And so then they're both walking around the beach naked and having a good time. And
then she gets pregnant again.
Yeah.
So I think does he give her the money? Somebody gives her the money to go home, and she's like, "Fine, I'm fucking going home."
Well,
what I have to do?
Yeah, but oh gosh. It's a long ass book.
Because she knows she's pregnant.
She knows she's pregnant.
The second she has sex with him.
Yeah, and she knows that it can't be, in the eyes of everybody else, can't be Ralph's son. So she has a wherewithal to get Luke back down, have more condomless sex, so she can
she's
put it off on him.
Bitch about it. It is kind of amazing because she slams him when because she's like, if I talk to him, he's gonna know. Okay, that I plan to leave. If I talk to him, I'm not going to be able to fucking shut my mouth. So what I'm going to do is just like jump on him like a goddamn spider and get that plausible sex in. And then in the morning, he's going to wake up, and she had like this shitting grin on her face, and she's like, guess what? Fuck you. I'm leaving. I'm going back home. No, I'm not divorcing you. You can go hang out with your sugarcane buddies all you want to. We don't do divorce here.
Yeah, so either Ralph or Fee gave her the money, and then she obviously knew what she was doing. Like she's gonna, get that Luke sperm and then go back to.
Because if it was he never came to see her. So if she hadn't done that, she would obviously had come home with a child born out of wedlock, and she cared a lot about what people thought. So she just like decided that she was gonna make this work. And she comes home pregnant, and they just never talk about Luke again. I was sure that Luke was going to show up at some point later in this book, because there's his meal ticket still, right? But like, nah, he didn't even come to pay me off.
He's still cashing that check though, like cutting cane and cashing checks. And I like, he's obviously this horrible person, but you know what he is, and he just is what he is, and I kind of like the fact that he doesn't show up. He's like, yeah, okay, fuck you too. I'm getting my money, and I don't really, need a woman.
I would love to know though. Did he ever buy the goddamn ranch? Like, did he ever?
Good question. I know the miniseries. Okay. I know the miniseries had like a follow-up miniseries where they kind of covered all the things.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, they did.
I wonder if that
do that
came
all the
in.
time. They would always have like the next, like North and South had like North and South 2. So I used to work at Suncoast, and in the South, people really like North and South, and I don't mean like the British one. I mean like the war between the states one. So, of course, she has Justine, and then she also has Dane, who is Ralph's child. And nobody is fucking stupid, okay? Like, Luke has, like, kind of a resemblance to Ralph, but everybody who has ever met these people is like, oh, yeah, that was a priest fucking thing right there.
Oh, did y'all talk about how, like, her pregnancy with Justine was the worst thing ever? And then, because, like, Luke was, conceived out of, Dane was conceived out of love, but he just, like, popped out. Like, hey, that got me.
And Justine is
she didn't feel any pain.
Yeah.
He just walked out.
Yeah.
He just like sauntered. Yeah. Like, that's the way it works. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and Justine is like a crabby baby who turns into a crabby child who turns into.
She's the best.
And the only thing Justine likes is Dane. It's her brother Dane. Like, that's the only thing she gives a shit about. Do not come to her about anything else. Which is kind of funny because she really has more in common with her grandmother.
Yeah.
Like, who has her own opinions on stuff, and don't fucking try, all right?
Yeah.
And people are like that, like people will be like throwback people in a way, although they won't have a relationship with somebody else, they'll be just like them.
Well, again, it was like how Meggie was basically like, this is my, I'm going to have this, and this is going to be enough. And it's still like, she's still like the most bitter, resentful person, even though she has... I was pleasantly surprised because, like, when she comes back from, Fuck Island, like, where she just, like...
It sounds fantastic. I need a vacation. I don't even, like, I just want to go by myself and just, like, be naked on the beach all the time.
Like, when she comes back from Fuck Island, like,
great.
she's invested in Justine, and I was happy because I was worried about that. I was like, oh,
yeah.
But...
It's not one of those stories where there's a baby that somebody's like, no, just no. I mean, except for Phoebe, but there was always 20,000 other people around to take those babies, so that was fine. But Yeah, so she comes back and she's like, okay, here I stay. And and nobody else in the family is bringing anybody else home. All right, like this is the family that's just like bound and determined to die out.
So like it goes into World War II, which I thought it was interesting to kind of see World War II from this Australian perspective, because you're seeing, in America, it's all, we're very Europe theater. We're talking a lot about like the fucking crazy shit that Japan like did to the rest of like Southeast Asia.
Well, and Japan got really fucking close to Australia.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it still plays out in I think the Australian mindset is the fact that we've had this existential crisis as a country very recently. And so, yeah, Fee's boys, a couple went off to fight in that.
The twins.
Yeah, the twins. Like, I think some others did too, but the twins were the ones who... y'all, this is why we don't let brothers fight together anymore.
Well, they're like, so it's... Okay, so yeah, they're basically like, we can spare two of you out of like the whole set. Bob, the oldest brother. And so it's Paddy, it's another Paddy, Pats, they call him, and Jim's. Patrick and Jim, who are the twins.
How does she remember these people?
And, well, like, they're kind of like, Jim's is the one that talks, and the other brother is basically like that character from,
he's like Harpo Marx.
Well, he's like the one from,
well, they call him Harpo, don't
they do. Yeah. Like, he's like the one from, the Yar, that's all he says is Yar. And so he sees like this bird that he's like, oh, it's this, Australian bird. And he's like frolicking in an African field. And all of a sudden he just gets out like machine gunned, and the other brother runs out and gets him. And
well, because they had made it through, they were in North Africa, and then they were in the Pacific campaigns, and they had made it through all those real bad islands, and then this happens like when nobody was expecting
it. They're like, no big, well, they were like, well, it mainly hit his thighs, but he's got a couple in the groin, and we don't know what he's going to feel. And he's basically like, well, I don't care about women anyway. It doesn't matter.
But it's very like this book to shoot somebody in the dick.
Yeah.
It's very like this book. So, like, yeah, this book is weirdly, I guess, like, for a generation book, maybe it's not weird. Very, very obsessed with, like, who has kids and why isn't anybody having any kids?
Yeah.
It's like the book needs you to, like, have some more kids so the book can keep going. So, like, the only one who's managed to have any kids is Meggie.
Yeah.
Like, nobody else. They're all these really shy, sunburned kids, I guess. And they're turning into sunburned men, and they're,
they just want to raise sheep.
They just want to raise
That's all
sheep.
they want to do is just raise the sheep. They love being out in the field or the whatever.
They're not real good at talking to, and I mean, of course, if you want to date somebody out there, you gotta, like, really want to date somebody. Like, they have cars now. Like, they really didn't have, like, that many cars at the beginning. Father Ralph, of course, had a fucking car. But, yeah, like, you had to really go out of your way. It's not like you're just going to meet cute in the grocery store or something. You have to go to dances and that sort of thing. And they're not interested in it, so they don't go. So you have these couple babies, and of course everybody's in love with these children, and they're so in love with Dane. That's the thing. Like, he's the sweet one. He's the beautiful one. He's the whatever. And Ralph comes to see them, and does he even figure it out immediately?
He doesn't know until...
He never figures it out.
No, he never does.
No, he doesn't know until after. So
dumb fuck.
Yeah, like
everybody else in the world is like, oh, that's Luke's son.
Yeah. So he comes and sees, and he spends time with the kids. And Justine is like, when he shows up, they're both around like 9 or 10, and once he figures out that Ralph is an archbishop, he's like, he starts genuflecting and kiss the ring, and he's like, Justine, you must kiss the ring, and she's like, no, it's gross, that's unhygienic, I'm not kissing it. And then she tells him, like, she's 10 years old, she's like, oh, I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you I'm an atheist. Like, she does not give a
she is the only person in this entire book who sees through his bullshit from the jump.
Yeah,
she is not kissing the ring here, and she is the only one.
Well, and as a 10-year-old, I think, doesn't she tell Dane that? Like, you think he's full of shit.
Yeah. Like, why doesn't
right
after that so much?
Yeah,
this dude's kind of creepy. He looks like the kind of dude who would fuck a 10-year-old. I don't like that's a good idea.
Oh my god, so he comes, he's
now like archbishop or something. He's like
he's an archbishop.
A big like, dude.
Because we do have some of the storyline with like him and the kind of like his mentor Vittorio. because Vittorio knows at the end too. Vittorio's the one that has the cat. Like he's always got a cat.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, when he come, like, Maggie had said, when you come to when you come here, you're mine. And so they kind of resume their relationship whenever he's there.
And it's kind of, I don't know, I thought it was kind of admirable too, that she kind of takes him at that point in her life for what he is. And he shows up and she is just kind of free with him when they're on their big ass property.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, this is what I get. And so I've decided that this exactly is what I'm okay with. And then, she kind of makes the rules and he's like, okay, I guess I'll follow those rules. But Dane grows up and wants to be a priest.
Yeah.
And Justine grows up and wants to be an actress.
Yes.
And they were all like, what? And she's like, yeah, I have it all figured out. Like, seriously, I've got an apartment ready. Y'all don't worry about me.
Well, and they describe Justine's, her looks, that they weren't really comparable with beauty standards at the time.
Yeah.
And I think there's this, like, they talk about her getting freckles removed.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got some work done.
She got her freckles removed, and that she's striking, but yeah, she's not, because when she tells her mom that she wants to be an actress, it's like in the 50s, and her mom's like,
shouldn't you be in radio? Kind of thing.
Yeah, she's like, no offense, but you don't. And she's like, I'm not talking about that kind of actress. And her mom and hers relationship gets really interesting because they're kind of back and forth. But yeah, she ends up going, I think, first to Sydney, and then ends up, when Dane decides that he's going to go into the priesthood, at first his mom's like, well, this is what I get. And she's like, but at the same time, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And I'm going to send you to, you're going to, like, you're going to be Vatican priest. You're not going to be just, outback priest. So he ends up going to Rome. And so Justine's like, well, hell, I'll go to London.
And of course, Vittorio, like anybody with any damn sense, Dane walks in and like, okay, so that's your nephew, right? Yeah.
But Vittorio...
Well, and I think Vittorio, too...
Okay.
Like,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Like I think I think his relationship with Ralph was a little bit like Mary Carson's.
Yeah.
Like, they're aligned, but they're also kind of adversaries. Yes. And Vittoria's always trying to figure Ralph out. And he's also really intrigued by him. Like, he has some of the same thoughts about, his physique and his looks. And you kind of get the sense that he's sexually attracted to Ralph as well.
And he's the only one, like, when Ralph came back from when he came back from Fuck Island, he told Vittorio about it. Because there's this whole scene where they're like, well, we're going to speak in English. And so he, like, tells him, and Vittorio is kind of like, it's cool, like, go and confess your sins to this priest and not this one. Like, yeah.
Don't.
So he knew, like, he knows that, Ralph went to Fuck Island. And so, like, he also could...
Well, and I mean, like, okay, so Ralph is always trying to have, like, real theological discussions. He is a religious man who thinks a lot about religious things. But, like, he's like, I'm an imperfect priest. I'm a shitty priest. Like, yeah, I know. You are. But, like, of course, like, the Vittorio's line, which is, true, is that, like, God can't do anything with perfect priests because there's no such thing.
Right.
So, we are all imperfect. So what you need to do is try to be more perfect. You're not doing great at that, by the way, but keep working on that, son.
Well, because he was basically like, your big three are like chastity, obedience, and like poverty. And he's like, well, you've already broken poverty because that lady left you all that money. He's like,
move out of the fucking water.
It's either obedience or chastity. And he's like, well, it was chastity. He's like, oh, it was that girl Ash Rose or whatever you call her. So
there's also this scene, like, earlier in the book where it's right after Ralph gets to Sydney and he's having to punish a priest that had sex with somebody, and they like are not fucking around with this guy. It's just like, middle of the night, you're not going anywhere, you're staying right by me, and next thing you know, you're going to be in Darwin, like the other end of Australia. And so this is all in the back of his mind, like, tormenting him.
Yeah, well, that other priest did not have $13 million.
Yeah.
You would be amazed how much grace $13 million will buy you.
A trip to Fuck Island.
Fuck Island, you get to go to Fuck Island. So, well, I mean, and, like, Dane is all just you know that you know what's going to end up happening to Dane because he's Goose. He's Goose. He is the Goose of this book. So
he's too good for this world. And of course, Ralph is looking at him like, that's the priest I wish I could be.
Well, when he gets, and the other thing is when he gets ordained, it takes a couple of years. He has to go through his, his process. But when he gets ordained, it's in Rome. And everybody in the family comes except for Meggie. And Justine's just
well, and we should say, okay, before that, Justine's been several times because she's kind of, nearby. And she blew it without knowing she blew it. Cause somebody was like, oh, is this your sister's, what? No, that's my, she has no idea that we were doing any kind of subterfuge. And I guess Dane doesn't know. I forget exactly how it played out because maybe this is something that Dane didn't know that they were doing. She screws it up in some way that lets everybody kind of know,
well, the thing
really
is
somebody lied.
Well, nobody know, aside from, you find out that Fiona knows. Fiona and Meggie have a conversation, and she's like, he looks just like his father, and Meggie says something, and she's like, not Luke. She's like, Ralph. She's like, that's Ralph's kid. And Maggie's like, do you think everybody knows? And she's like, no. She's like, people only see what they want to see. And then they have this really interesting conversation because they bring up Frank. And you find out that Frank, we had kind of known from an earlier thing that Frank was the child of someone else. But you find out that his father was half Maori and really well connected. And so that explains why he was so, his coloring was so different. And her mom, it's a really interesting conversation, but so she knows, Vittorio knows, Justine has no idea, Dane has no idea. And then
we should mention, Frank comes back before all this happens because Frank goes to Italy.
No, Frank is in jail. Frank is in jail.
No, Frank is not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank is finally released.
Yeah, he's released and he comes back to the station. He comes back to live
and has to work in the garden, but I don't remember what happens. He just comes back and he's just
a broken person and that's it. He just fades away. But he comes to Italy. And so Dane has kind of this almost he's never known this guy, but he has kind of this relationship with him, and Justine does too.
Again, literally the entire family, the entire little town of Gilly or whatever comes to this guy's priest ordination or his priesthood ceremony, except for his mom. And
she's had a premonition that something terrible is going to happen.
She did because she's a bitch. She said that she was never leaving the station again. Is why she really So, what had happened? When she, I don't know if you guys talked about this. So, when she got pregnant, her ride or die, the best person, there's two great people in this book. There's Anne and there's Rainier, who, Anne is a real one. Anne is the person that Meggie lived with at, when she was up in the rainforest. And she told her, she was when she gets back from Fuck Island, she has to come back there for a little bit, to have sex with Luke one more time to cover shit. And Anne's she tells Anne, she's like, it's going to be okay because this, I'm having his kid and it's going to be the best thing. And this is the thing I'm going to love the most. And Anne's like, we read a lot of those Greek tragedies. And you know what happens in those Greek tragedies? When you love something so much, the gods get pissed off. She's like, you might want to dial it back. And Anne kind of is like, you're going to hold on to something too tight and something's going to happen to it, and yeah. So after his being ordained, he's in Greece swimming. He's just swimming.
Well, Justine's supposed to go with him, but she gets offered, she's been getting these really great Shakespearean roles, and she gets offered, I think, Lady Macbeth. And she's like, well, I can't turn that the fuck down. Yeah. Sorry, can't go to Greece with you. Yeah. And then, of course, what happens is that, and these people are all amazing swimmers. But, he dies. He just, he dies saving somebody, but he dies. He's happy.
These two English women, he ends up saving them and he gets pulled out and his death is transcendent. But
he has a heart attack.
Interesting fact. Colleen McCullough, that's how her brother died.
Oh, wow.
Her real life brother was saving somebody in Crete. So she's obviously working on some shit in this book. But.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. So so Justine gets the phone call, from the Greek, the embassy or whatever, and they're like, well, we think it's him. And she's like, we can't
And
find
this is when Greece is like really unsettled. This is when they're having...
It's like a civil war.
Yeah. And they're like, we can't get the body to you because it's Greece during a civil war. And she's like, fuck that noise. So she calls her mom and tells her mom. And then her mom comes to Italy, finds Ralph, and is just, she's like, you know, she tells him that Dane's dead. And he was like, he was the perfect priest. And she's like, bum, bum, bum. He was your son. And she says some really bitchy shit to him. Like, you never knew, and you were never gonna know, but now he's dead. And both of us are miserable and terrible. And she's like, you're gonna go get his body and bring it back to dusty Australia, which he does.
That's all I want. That's the one thing I fucking want from you, is to bring his body home. And so, yeah. I think it's interesting that he dies of a heart attack, not of, he doesn't drown. And I think that maybe
he dies of really like
purpose.
Of sadness, because after he does the funeral mass for Dane, you know, he comes into the...
No, I mean, Dane had died of a heart attack. Yeah, then Ralph dies.
After he does the funeral mass, you know, he's in this room with Fiona and Meggie, and he just breaks down and loses it, and then you find out later that he's dead, and Justine's like, good, he was creepy.
Yeah.
But he basically just dies of, you know, of family saga angst.
And Justine is like, I need to go home. It's my fault. I should have gone to Greece with him. I said I'd go to Greece with him. Like, dude, he had a heart attack.
Well, like, she's like, all this time, like, Justine has always been like, I'm never going to get married, blah, blah, blah. She's got a real one. She has got this, like, amazing dude, Rainier.
Raina.
Yeah, Raina, who is into her.
She calls Rain, and it's like super patient, and she's a total dick to him. Yeah. But he's kind of like, well, I like her, and I'm going to play the long game. And it's like this 10-year long game that he plays with her.
And he's sort of a prodigy of Ralph also. Like, he was a little Nazi soldier when the Germans were in Rome, and it's like this whole kind of thing. So they're all stuck in together. And he's sort of a spy.
Well, he's also not an idiot and realizes who the fuck Dane is. Yeah. And I think he ends up being like, after, because, you know, Ralph had been the caregiver of this, you know, the station. I think Rain gets he's named in Ralph's will as being
like the CEO or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Dane and Justine got half of Ralph's personal wealth, but, you know, Justine being the only person alive gets all of his personal wealth. But then this multi-million-dollar company goes, surprise, surprise, to a man that's in love with one of the Cleary girls.
Yeah. And, you know, he's trying, like, for 2 years, Justine won't see anybody. She's just acting. She's just got to act.
And she's very skittish about she is happy to fuck you, but if you use that L word,
oh yeah,
she is not here for that. Probably because she saw what it did to all these other people in her life.
Yeah,
you know?
Like all the women in her lives, or in her life. And so, I mean, Rain ends up coming to visit Meggie and Fee, and Fee has got to be 95 years old at this point, because I don't know, it's, but he's like, I need y'all's help, you know, he's like, it's going to go one of two ways for her. She's either going to come here and live and learn to be happy, or marry me, where she can still act and be happy. So he asked Meggie to help him.
Because she thinks that she should move home, almost as penance. You know, I need to go home with my mom because, you know, it's my fault Dane's dead. And I was having too much fun. Too much fun was had.
Yeah. And so, Justine, again, is really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and Rain is, totally straight with Meggie. And just has this, you know, very direct conversation with her where he's just like, you know, she's not going to be happy here. And this isn't her fault and she can't see it. And just says all these things in a way that, I don't know, since probably her father died. Well, I guess Fee kind of talks to her straight sometimes, but just not a lot of people are that direct to her and tell her when she's, I don't know,
full of shit.
She's
one of those people who's she's got a big personality and she says things that sometimes she means, but not. Maybe she wouldn't have, you know, decided to really stick with that if she hadn't said it, you know. Like she kind of writes checks with her mouth that then has to cash, and it's kind of a thing. Like, hey, you don't have to be that proud. You can so he comes out and he says that big old L word, and then she's like, and she freaks out. But eventually, it's fine. They eventually get married.
Yeah, they eventually do get married. But Meggie like helps it's like one like Maggie's last thing is or the last act that Meggie has in the book is to kind of like help it along,
fly free.
Well, and it's kind of like they know Justine so well. Like if you suggest something to her, she's not going to do it. Yeah. So you kind of have to suggest the opposite thing and then let her figure out. Yeah.
She needs to come to things on her own, feeling that she has not been manipulated. Mm-hmm. It's a nice way.
She is, and so like it kind of ends with her, married. Like she and Rainier get married, or whatever, Reiner get married. So.
Well, she calls him Rain, so
she calls him Rain, which I thought was funny because there's this whole thing about once where he's going on how she pronounces his name, and he's like, "It's Rainer," and I don't know. My experience with Australian pronunciation is it would sound like that anyway.
Maybe she thinks she's calling him Rain the whole time, and nobody wants to tell her because she's just going to be a pain in the ass if she tells.
And so it kind of like it spanned from like I'm trying to see it ends in 1969.
Yeah, Rain is wearing mesh shirts under his sport coats, just so that you can see all of his voluminous chest hair. Like that's.
But you know what? Good for him because like it's constantly in the description that he's like not. Like he's sort of like a little round dude.
Yeah, they're these two little troll people that end up happy together, so that's nice. That's nice for everybody. Honestly, in this book, attractive people are almost always garbage.
They really are. Like they're the worst ones.
Except for Dane, I guess, and he was too good for this world.
Yeah, but I kind of like that. It's I don't know. It's these people that you're supposed to admire that I don't know. They don't last. They get killed or just bad shit happens to them. And it's the ones that have all these faults kind of come out in the end. Yeah, like at the beginning, I don't think you're really meant to like Justine other than the fact that she sees through Ralph's shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She ends up being so, and I think, and I guess that's more for questions when we do questions, but I think this book out of any of the books that we've really done has the most interesting kind of layered female relationships, and not just it's not just like in family, because you have other people, like you have Anne and Maggie's relationship. So I think it's very nuanced and very interesting, because I was fully prepared. Like I was like, oh Lord, when Justine gets when she's born, it's gonna be you hear about like how difficult their relationship is at the beginning. And then Dane, she's pregnant with Dane. I was like, it's going to be all Dane all the time. And like, Justine's going to be ignored. But like, it was, her mom cares for her. Even
well, you had to ignore Justine. Yeah. Like, but you couldn't do I mean, like, you had to kind of like give her a hands off because, that's just what she needed. That's how she was. Yeah.
But they had like this really sweet scene, and again, this is more for questions. Like when they're when she tells her mom's baking these ugly cookies, these green cookies. When she tells her that she wants to be an actress, and then she calls her mom old, and the mom throws a cookie at her. Like it's very realistic.
Like, so what? You're too ugly to act. So what you got?
Yeah, like it's. I don't know. It was very. I like the female relationships in it.
Yeah, I did. And there's also there's people who work there, and that they're all given like real characters. And but let's go to questions. Okay, question time. After all of that, let's ask our questions. Number one, big dick energy or big dick energy? A lot of dicks in this.
Mary Carson had the biggest dick of everybody. Like that was the biggest dick in this book. That woman's spite.
She sure did.
I love a spite will. A spite will gives me so much pleasure in life. I love a spite will.
But I think she had like both big dick energy and big dick energy, because I mean, she was an absolute lady boss out in the middle of the Australian outback.
Yeah.
She made her money. Like she didn't even, I mean, she inherited some, but like that money was literally hers. It was not like, she, Yeah, I wish she had gotten,
gotten
to be the big dick of the show.
even in the spite will, like, she doesn't screw over, because I thought what she was gonna do, like the lead up to it, like, I thought that she was gonna like do something just completely foul, but like she takes care of that family. She's not overly friendly to them or anything like that, but you know what, like, sometimes you don't want, but she takes, like, they're essentially taken care of. Like, she knows that
in
what's his
grand
face
style.
is gonna give them
in very good style.
yeah. Oh, what's his face is going to give them guilt money, like
Ralph. Well, I think that also she knew that if she had been totally cunty about it, that he would have had to tear up the will. You know, if it was throwing all these people and their 18 children out on the street, like, okay, I can't keep this, but it allowed him an out.
Well, and I think it's worth mentioning that this is the same priest that she tried to coerce into sex.
Yeah.
I could never quite tell if she was really trying to coerce him into sex, or if she was doing that thing that old ladies do sometimes to make you deeply sexually uncomfortable. But it's hard to say. She was definitely making me deeply uncomfortable. That whole scene where he's naked in the rain and they're both like double dog daring each other. It's wild. Oh my God.
I think she would have hit that.
Yeah. If he was like, let's do this, shoot. But yeah, so aside from her, obviously, you know, we're supposed to be talking about Ralph, but like
Ralph's dick does not compare to her dick. Yeah. Ralph.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird because I know that this is a very beloved book. It's a very beloved character, but like I said, like, I feel like that this is basically two people that just ruined everyone else around them, and he is just a dick. He's just a dick, you know, like, he's just,
that man ain't shit. That man ain't shit. All right, he's concerned. He talks about God a lot, and I don't remember if I talked about this last time or not. But in that extremely porny book, Priest: A Love Story, I felt that the religion was actually more sincere than the religion in this book, because he talks a big game about God, but yeah, he really likes the way he looks in his soutane, right? His like very like his athletic
form fitting.
Yes, with all the buttons.
I think what's interesting is like, okay, so you have him who, you know, what he's really addicted to is office politics. Like, he's addicted to the power and like the Vatican power and that kind of stuff, whereas, you know, Dane is the one who is actually really like religious, that really has a relationship with God, that wants to be a priest for all of the right reasons. And, you know, for Ralph, it's just about the power and the manipulation, and yeah.
And Ralph is such a hypocrite that he looks at Dane and he's like, I wish I had what you had. I wish I could be doing this. But the thing is, look, you could be. Like, right now, you could change your life. You know, you could rededicate yourself to God and give up your money and give up your cardinal or your bishop or archbishop or whatever he was at that point. And you could go, like, you know, work among the poor of Calcutta today. But he doesn't even consider that option, you know, like.
And then his final act. So of course he leaves. It seems like he leaves all of his personal money to Dane and to Justine. But his final act, he's died of a broken heart. He leaves the company that really should belong to Justine, leaves it to another man that Justine's dating.
Yeah, it's
condescending as fuck.
Well, although he does have a relationship with Rain, like he does I guess maybe he thinks he saved Rain from his little Nazi hood. Although Rain does seem to be like the same kind of like dealer and wheeler and possibly spy that Ralph was. So I guess he like looks at Rain and he sees him as like, oh, that could have been me had I not like been a false priest my whole life.
I mean, it's
I'm being probably harder on this guy than he absolutely deserves. I just appreciate that Justine saw through his fucking bullshit. And he's always like, that guy was fucking creepy. He was always creepy. Like, why do you people like him so much? He was weird and he was like, he made me feel uncomfortable. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I know that a lot of people like really love this dude, but I think that they're maybe like they're seeing the miniseries because if you were
It's the
watching
Richard Chamberlain
it's the
afterglow.
Richard Chamberlain, but not just that. But if you're seeing the guy in a miniseries, you wouldn't necessarily be getting nearly as much of his internal life. You'd be getting his actions and his hotness in his athletic fit, vestments. So
he has that like. He has that cool guy, like there's those like the cool pastor, like tennis shoes pastor. Like he has
Pastor
that.
Blake.
The one that's always touching somebody he ain't ought to be touching. Yeah, that seems about right.
So, yeah, I mean, and I get people love a book with yearning, and I guess this was like that, we could make him yearn, and there'll be so much yearning, and but for it just, I think. For it being, 2021 and reading this. I think when I read it when I was younger, I probably was more into it, but it's been so long
it's
that
not that it's 2021. I don't think that's it. I think it's that we are 40 something.
Yeah.
I think that's more it. That like it's a young person's book. I almost think,
Yeah.
It's less romantic when you are older. And I had assumed, I did not read this and I had not seen the miniseries. So I was guessing that this is going to be sort of like an Abelard and Heloise. Well, I mean, without the castration part, but like, that he would not give in to temptation as a priest, or if he gave in to temptation, it'd be the kind of thing where he gave in once and then hated himself for the rest of his. No. He was just in love with himself more than with anybody else, including God.
Oh, see, no, I totally knew. I remember Fuck Island. Fuck Island stayed with me. I saw the miniseries too, because I remember like Fuck Island in the book and the miniseries. Because when it happens, you're like, yeah, but like in that miniseries.
But that is definitely when I liked him the most of the book. Well, that and when he's like playing dueling, we'll go like dueling swords with Mary, like because he seems, those are the people that they could have been had they not been who they are. Which of course all these books are about the people you could have been had you not been all the people that you have to be because you have no choice because of 20,000 reasons. Like that's the tension in a lot of these books is like if we didn't have societal expectations, and if we didn't have the money problem, and if we didn't have the fact that I promised I would never have sex with anybody, and then we would be different people, but then we'd also be different people. So like I get that, and I get the appeal of that. There's also Luke, who's just a big dick energy. Like there is another dude
just
in
out
this,
there,
and
and
he's
He's still out there to this day cutting sugar cane.
How long does he think that this is a career choice for himself? You know how long
like
people
every I like that she's like, wait, hold on. She's like every 500 page, every 200 pages or so, like Colleen's like, let's check in with Luke. And it's like Luke wrote a letter and he's like, I'm still cutting the cane. And so it's just like this, this periodic, I feel like Colleen was like, ha ha ha, it was like her joke, like, hey, I'm still cutting sugar cane. So he was just he could have been a really interesting character, I think, if they had explored more with him and his the Swedish guy, and not being able to be in the relationship that they truly want. He could have been really interesting, but he was just such a jerk. Well, we just need something bad to happen to Maggie, she needs some kids, or one kid, and then that kind of thing. So
what struck me with Luke is, I don't know, just the hints at more complex relationships with other men, and also throughout the book, just discussions of or hinting at potential homosexuality without any real judgment, which in the time that was written and the time that would have taken place, I don't know, it's rather remarkable. So I know that, Mary asked Ralph and the priest, Father, I forget his name, Vincenzo or something, ask, and it was just kind of like this matter of fact, like this sometimes happens, bit of a tangent, but I thought that was kind of remarkable.
Well, what I thought was really interesting, actually, is that it wasn't subtext; it was actually text, but it said in a way that Luke had never heard of the concept, which I doubt, of homosexuality, but and then they're like, well, the implication that she's giving is he wasn't gay, he just. Yeah, and I'm like, well, was he or wasn't he? Or also just like, was he not able to see a woman as an equal and a person, and therefore, preferred the company of the gentleman of the cane?
All right, question 2.
Yeah.
All right. Enough with the dicks.
Yes.
Enough with the dicks.
Talk shit with or about?
Oh, about the heroin.
About the heroin, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
I messed up the question.
it's okay.
Oh, it's okay.
I liked Maggie at first, but then she became just the fucking worst. Or Meggie. Like, I think she pulls that Catherine line from, like, Wuthering Heights, where she just lets her obsession with Ralph ruin her. Like, she just becomes this bitter-ass old woman. Or at least to me. But, like, she didn't even go to her son's
lots
thing.
of those women.
Yeah. What were you saying, Nate?
At first, I don't know, there were some times I just wanted to, pull her aside and sassy gay best friend her about some of her life choices. But it seems like after Luke, she changes a bit. And she compromises a bit on the relationship that she has with Ralph. She's like, okay, I can get this much of Ralph. I'm going to take it. And then she goes back to Drogheda, and I don't know, over time just becomes a lot more self-empowered and kind of gets to this point too, where she's just like, fuck Ralph. And I don't know. I kind of feel like towards the end, the system, both Meggie and Fee a bit more, they're kind of doing it for themselves.
Yeah.
Well, and they have very similar, and the funny thing is, I guess that you said, like, be the gay best friend, and this goes into our back to the bitch question also, but like these people all seem very alone, even though they're surrounded by people. So it's not just that, like, yeah, okay, they are on a giant cattle station or sheep station in the middle of nowhere, and they had to go a long way to meet people who they don't already know, but also, like, they don't have a lot of confidants, any of these people. Like, Fee is very, very reserved with her children, and Meggie she keeps everything real close to the vest, and she, like, the only, like, when she goes to Northern Queensland, and she, like, has Annie, right, as a friend, it's the first time she ever actually has a confidant, but she won't, like, she won't admit that her marriage was a failure, so she won't, like, write and get money to go home. She won't leave even, like, without money, because she won't, like, she has very few people, and of course she can never tell anybody about the whole thing with Ralph, which of course is a great situation for a predator. She just, all these people, I think, like, a lot of their problems are because they are not just isolated, like, physically, but they are isolated emotionally, and they do that to themselves.
I feel like Fee and Meggie at the end become Mary Carston. I mean, and that's not a bad thing, but, like, when they're trying to, like, instill that and make, Justine come and do it, like, that doesn't, like, stop trying. Just because you guys are miserable and you feel empowered on this land, not everybody needs to be on the damn land. Like, that was, I think, with me, like, and also her just not going
and
to
keep in
Rome.
mind, it's not your land.
Yeah, but, like, also, like, when she refused to go to Dane's ordination, and, like, basically every single person in the family comes but her. It was just like her just like, I'm never leaving this place again, which, I mean, I guess that's your thing, but I mean, she does, like, again, I agree, she does become empowered, but she also just seems joyless in it,
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, I don't know. I think she might redeem herself a bit with Justine towards the end.
Yeah.
Where, I don't know, she collaborates with Rain to trick Justine into staying in Europe and doing what's really best for her. And at really the decline and demise of Drogheda.
Yeah, I mean, they are, like, for sure, like, very interesting, she is a very interesting person, and she has a lot, again, like she has grown up basically in the arms of a, you know, she's been groomed for however many years. So it's kind of a interesting, to see her arc. And like, it's just, I did enjoy like her and her mom kind of like becoming this weird, like adversarial best friends, like when her mom's basically like, you know, like, I know who's that kid, but, you know, like, so I kind of like that they become each other's.
Do you think I'm fucking stupid, Meggie? I mean, like,
like, I just like the idea of these two old ladies, like, in the house, like, just growing up in that house together.
I knew. Oh, well, so what? So you knew, yeah. But I think a lot of people can identify with, you know, being daddy's girl, and then daddy dies.
Yeah.
You know, and now here you are for the rest of your life with mom, and your relationship has always been somewhat related to your relationship with your dad, and now like it's just you and her.
Mom and daughter relationships are always just complicated, but I do like
this
that
one is extra interesting.
Yeah, they do kind of settle in. So I mean, it's not that I dislike Meggie, but I think it's just that, like, I don't know, part of me is like, you don't have to worry about the basic things that you need. Like, you can just go be anywhere. Like, take your mom, y'all go get some caftans and like just go live in like southern Italy and just have, you know, like, instead of on this dried up dusty ass, like, you know, sheep farm.
Well, and the interesting thing is, like, well, she did grow up very poor, so she does know how lucky she has it.
Yeah,
but she never enjoys it.
No, there's no
money is for enjoying, like, especially if you come up super hard and you have enough money not to fulfill all your needs and then some. Then you enjoy the then some. Right?
Well, particularly given just everything about that doll at the beginning of the book. It's like the one luxury she had in life that gets destroyed, and like,
I was really upset about the doll.
Very. But,
yeah, I was so pissed about
But
the
like
doll.
her mom, and I guess this goes more into the McDonald's question, but like her mom ends up, like, as soon as her mom gets that money and gets in that house, she's like, we're redoing stuff, like, I'm gonna show you how, you know, she's like, I'm gonna show you I grew up with money. Like, her mom at least enjoys it.
I always had that class.
Yeah.
And I did, well, let's go ahead and fold in back to the bitch, because we've been talking about it anyway.
Yeah.
But what I think is very interesting about this, and which does, I think, separate this from some of the more, I guess, cliched books that we have read, is that both Fee and Meggie and their relationship seem like real people, like exhausting real people you want to shake like all the time, because they can't just like fucking say it and like get it out of their systems and like, you know, go and get your caftans on. But they are by no means like a sitcom thing or like a thing that you've read in another book or whatever. These are highly individual people who are, I think, really well written. Yeah. So, like, you know, props on that to the author.
And then you have Anne, who like still comes and sees Meggie like once or twice a year. Like, she's a real one. Like, she's ride or die. I mean, she made Fuck Island happen. So like,
but is she almost like a mother, like a, you know, a mother do-over?
I don't think so. I think she's more like a big sister. And I think like for Meggie, who's so female, like relationship starved, it was nice for her to have this, like, you know, this person, because Anne also tells her about like stuff that she's dealt with, and, you know, I don't know, I felt like it was, I mean, I know that, like, you know, she has to lean on her a lot, but you know, their relationship, once she gets back to Sheep Farm, you know, she's got money, she's got stuff, it's just her coming to visit and things. So I don't know, I liked that.
Their relationship to money is so, I guess, weird in this, because, okay, so I know many people who have had nothing and either came into money or worked their way into money. And it can be kind of like a, you know, an albatross around your neck. It can like mess you up, but I don't know. It's interesting because this is somebody, and she came from like grinding poverty and then to slightly less grinding poverty to comfort for the rest of her life. And then she marries this guy, and then immediately is thrown back into the servant class, and that doesn't bother her.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I mean, I think that she's so, I guess, discombobulated. She's so disoriented by the entire thing. she's so, I guess, trying to be a good wife and everything, but like that aspect of it, she never says a word about, which I think is, I don't know, interesting and maybe unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I like their relationship with money throughout the entire book is always like kind of worth looking at, because they're rich but they don't own. They're never landowners throughout the entire book. Like, they're filthy rich though. Like, you know, even though it's like just a kind of a grant to them, but they act in interesting ways.
Well, they never put up a fight, you know, for what they could have had more. Paddy says,
y'all know Paddy would have lost that money. Paddy would have lost that money so fast if he had gotten all that money. That would have been, oh God, Paddy, like, don't give that man money. Like, it ended up being the right thing, because Ralph, like, knows what to do with it. Paddy would have just done some, like,
he would have bought land, Scarlet. Land's the only thing that lasts. He would have bought all of Australia, and then all of Australia would have had a drought and a fire.
Yes. He'd have had a Scarface video or poster in his house. Like, that's the kind of, like, Paddy would have just been like, you know. But Justine's the only one who knows how to be living her best life with money. Like,
kangaroo skin rugs.
Kangaroo skin rugs. God,
that's what we're buying if we get rich.
That kangaroo skin rug was wild.
Yeah.
Well, on another note, like, I know we have talked Mary Carson ad nauseum, but I was thinking about the way that she interacts with other women, and she never treats another woman in this as an equal.
No.
It's just, you know, and most of the men either, but there's just a few that she kind of like treats like they're on their level. But
it's like her and Ralph are the only two that she, you know, well, she kind of has a grudging thing for Fee. I think, like, if Fee had been nicer, or like if Fee had been more open, because I think she kind of knew that Fee, you know, Fee's backstory of being, you know, kind of wealthy, but I don't know if she you know, I think it was like a grudging respect kind of thing, but I think she also would have, you know, shanked her if she could. So
consent, Robin Thicke or Marvin Gaye?
Well,
little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
So a lot. Yeah. I mean, the whole grooming of a child thing was super rapey and bad. And we talked about, even though she was of age of consent before he even kissed her, there was just like a lot of.
By the time they got to Fuck Island, she was like mid-20s and had already had a child, and, you know, kind of knew what was what. I mean, she hadn't had good sex because she had, you know, Sugarcane Man, but, you know, it wasn't when the physical act of sex in this book is, you know, is consensual, but it's the grooming and that whole process, obviously, that's the problem.
Yeah, although I would say the first time, and probably more times than that, but at least definitely the first time that Luke and Meggie had sex, it was like the definition of marital rape.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was very explicitly awful. Like, it was written just. I mean, this is certainly one of those situations where you should not read this book if that's the kind of thing that you're sensitive to, because it is. I guess the word explicit is not quite right, but it's really upsetting. However, this might be the first one we've ever done where she also commits a non-sexual act on a man.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she stealths him.
She does that. Yeah, when she takes she non-consensually takes the condom off, like, right?
Yeah,
like, she slips it off with her thighs or something, like.
And then he's like, oh, and she's like, it's fine, you know, because she's got, well, both times. She does it both times because she's got, like, plans. Because, I mean, it's absolutely like she's got that mens rea, man. She's got that criminal intent.
It was,
So, and it was clearly non-consensual, but I recall them talking about it, and, like, he liked it, and
yes,
they talk, well, can we just do it this way from now on? And so it turned into like this, I don't know, discussion about having a mutually enjoyable sex life, but didn't start off well.
Yeah, it did not start well. off well. Like, her sex with Luke is terrible. Fuck Island is great. Then Justine is very empowered, and Justine's first time is wild too, because like she like that older man. Justine's completely in control of the whole thing, and she just starts like laughing during it. She just is. So really, it's just again, it's
Well, it's that thing that we've had in other books where like I want to get rid of my V card. I pick you.
But it's just, and it's, as we talked about, it's the grooming of a child. And I know that Colleen McCullough, she does do that whole thing of like trying to say that Ralph didn't see her that way until Bing, but I'm also like, why, but it's still the fact that like, what is this grown ass man doing obsessed with this kid? Like, you are a grown man.
And she's always like sleeping over at his house and stuff. Like it's
uncomfortable. Like, but so I think
the consent of this book is like really kind of multi-layered, and like this is probably the most complicated consent book we've ever had. Where there's so many different ways in which people assault each other in this book. My goodness,
it's true.
I can't wait for the YouTube comments about how we just don't understand that things were different back then, Courtney. Yes. Oh my God, how could you be so stupid as to not understand that things were different in the past when priests just raped your kids and you were happy about it?
Exactly.
We get the most obnoxious YouTube comments from people. I mean, seriously.
All right, next.
How badly are you judging your mama for reading this book?
I think
everybody's mama read this book.
Yeah, I know. That's a lot of mom judging to do. That's
my mom read it. I know.
33 million copies.
Yeah, I know my mom.
I bet my mom read it. I haven't asked her, but I bet she read it.
Yeah, I know she did, and I think again, I feel like what happened was that this book was popular, obviously, but then the people got, Alan Quartermained, aka Richard Chamberlain, and like I think that blew it up even more. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think it's probably one of those. I'd be interested to see like what the sales were before the 1983 miniseries, and then see what they were after. So,
and Australia versus like US sales.
Yeah, I'm assuming that literally everybody in Australia. Man, woman, child, crocodile, spider, that they all read this book.
They'll give it a copy, like I said at birth. Like, here's your copy of the Thornbirds.
You just issued it.
I mean, it
is
is
a good time to mention, if you are curious about the miniseries, we will be doing a watch-along.
Yes. We haven't picked the date, though we're still, our Patreons can go and vote. But that will probably have to take place.
We're going to all watch it together over Discord, and we're going to snark on it.
Yeah. I don't know. We might get super sucked in. We might get super sucked in. I don't know.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. It has, in addition, we named all the people, but I get really excited about Brian Brown things because I feel like Brian Brown gives insane energy in everything that he's in. So I'm excited to see the Brian Brown energy. So yeah, I'm excited for it. But I think
definitely the miniseries put this thing over the top.
Yeah. I think everybody...
Shogun. I think Shogun is a comparable book / miniseries.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those books that everybody read, everybody had.
Yeah. Next question?
Yes. What are we at?
All right. Would Scarlett Johansson be in this movie?
It's deeply colonialist, so yes.
Yeah. I would say no, because there's no Aboriginal people for her, whose role she can play.
Although I am surprised that they actually some of these people are part indigenous Maori, right? I mean, isn't Fee and also Frank?
No,
Frank would be. I don't think Fee was.
No, Fee. But... No, okay. The thing is, they mention that in the very beginning when they were talking about these very fancy New Zealand families, that they all were. Mixed with indigenous peoples, and that they said that Frank had more of it. So
she had been some. Yeah, I remember you them talking about that, but I also remember the guy that Frank's father was indigenous. So I mean, yeah, but again, I think it's just, she does that thing where she puts it in kind of the world, but not enough to actually like really explore it, like.
Yeah.
And again, you're going to be more familiar with it. And...
Yeah. So at that time and place, there would have been Aboriginal people around.
Yes.
And I think there was one mention using really problematic terms.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's just diversity in this book is whether you're Irish or German.
Exactly. So
it's like Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's like Pittsburgh. But I was kind of surprised that they had Frank's father, that be the background for Frank's father, because it was so specific. The thing was that he was the first Indigenous person to be elected to office, like whatever office they were talking about, and that's why he couldn't own his son. Like, I don't know. It was such a really specific thing to say.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and I think if I'm remembering this correctly, like we talked about some things of this book being a little autobiographical. To Colleen McCullough, like Dane is her brother.
Right.
I believe that I read that she was part Maori as well.
Oh, wow.
And I if that's so, I kind of wonder if there isn't some personal experience that's getting kind of laced into the story there.
Because, I mean, I don't want to say, like, that is amazing representation. It is absolutely not. But it's non-stereotypical representation, at least.
Yeah.
Like, this person who appears not in the story, but in the background of the story, at least seems like a person with, like, things that they did instead of, like, in the Victoria Holt books, which is kind of what you see of Indigenous Australians, like, in the rest of the book. Like, it's all like, oh, well, we can't get help that stays because the Aborigines like to go walkabout. And that's all that Victoria Holt will say at all about the people whose land this book is set on. Whereas this has a bit of that, but it also has this other little story, which I'm not lauding it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this book has like amazing representation for that, but I did think that was like, I don't know, worthy of note, at least. That is...
Well, and the fact that exists kind of points to the problem of Aboriginal people being written out of or excluded from literature, which is consistent with, exclusion from society that happened in Australia.
Yeah.
That's something that, Australians many are trying to deal with right now, but that would, I think, typify that problem.
Because
they're not being written into the story.
It has like 1,000 characters, and like 2 of them tops, more like 1, are indigenous to that part of the world. That's nuts, but it's also incredibly common for books not just written then, but also written now. You're not leaving the house looking like that. There are 2 outfits in this book. One of them is a really sweet flapper dress that's in ashes of roses, and the other is Father Ralph's sexy vestments.
We love those vestments.
You got to bring him up every time he shows up.
Yeah.
How good he looks in how well he looks in them.
He looks very well in his vestments.
Like that.
Yeah.
He cuts such a striking figure.
I have to say, like, people in this book know how to dress up for a party.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But then they also know that, a skirt isn't really practical when your house is about to burn to the ground, so they'll, throw on a pair of pants, or when you're rounding up sheep. So
Maggie was always, if not in her ashes dress, she was always in her khaki riding pants and the white shirt. That was her.
But I'm picturing that, and I'm sure I may be actually picturing the commercial for the miniseries. But that looks so fucking good, dude. I'm picturing like the riding pants and all, and it looks just like tomboy fabulous. Like I can.
You got Rachel Ward. You gotta use that Rachel Ward figure. So yeah, that was
like the Dr. Quinn kind of look, But the Ashes of Roses dress, I mean, it's one of those things where somebody wears something as a young person, and it continues to be a metaphor the rest of their life for their dead relationship and their murdered hopes. So this kind of unattractive color is like her color for the rest of the thing. But you can imagine it being really, I mean, you know, it's like what? It's like 1918 or something, and like 1922. Yeah. So you can see it like straight cut and with the, you know, you can see it, and it's lovely. And these people are dressing up like this to go to these like these country ass dances
and house parties. Yeah,
yeah, the most Barney thing you've ever seen.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how this like translates onto like the miniseries and see how these looks look essentially. Mm-hmm. But I feel like more than that dress, like what I remember, and again, I think just like from like seeing the miniseries, like you're talking about, is seeing Rachel Ward in her riding pants and her white shirt, like billowing. You know, like it's always billowing in the wind. So.
That's a hot look. I gotta tell you, that's always gonna be a hot look.
I mean, if you can make it, if you can pull it off, but like most people end up in like, you know, some chinos and a.
I rode horses many a time. I never looked like that. I can tell you that. I've also worn khaki pants before, and I did look like I worked at Target. So yes, every day. Thank you.
Yeah,
it's always so interesting though when you watch a historical that was made in a time period that is not your time period, because it is amazing how blind people are. Usually it's the hair. It's like the hair and the undergarments that people just can't, even if they think they're making a really like authentic movie or miniseries or TV show, they can't see it. Like they're just hair blind and like bra blind and like, you know, that it's always the hair. So I'm looking forward to how 80s this 20s look is going to be.
Would your 12-year-old self have dog-eared any pages?
I mean, I remember Fuck Island. I remember the hell out of Fuck Island. So, yes, because like clearly, because I read this in middle school, like Fuck Island stayed with me. So, I mean, and again, if you're 12 years old, that shit is hot. Like before you like knew what grooming was. Like again, back at 40, it's like, oh well, finally, we knew that this was going to happen. But like the culmination of all that kind of pining, like yeah, I was into it.
Also, I like how like she made her so comfortable because she had like a week of like swimming naked. Like I wish somebody were here to teach me how to swim, and like being like for the first time in her life alone. So she gets this time, and so it's not like he comes on her and any kind of. She's like the most powerful she's ever been, I guess. Yeah. She's like in her castle of a little cabin, and she could tell him to go fuck off. You know, I mean, I think that's why it works. Because she is like she is in no way beholden to him or to anybody else, and he shows up, and she's like, "Wow, is this just like an extra service on Fuck Island? I'll decide if I would like to receive that."
And I don't remember it being like overly graphic, but it was like a very sensual scene. And then you have Justine on her kangaroo skin rug, you know, so like the consensual sex scenes were well done.
I'll tell you the truth, though. I probably would have dog-eared the non-consensual stuff, too, just because we were looking for information.
Yeah. It does give you information.
It's terrible. But what's going on?
Well, like when Meggie gets Luke to take off the condom. And afterward, they're both kind of into it. Like, they're pretty descriptive about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, I would say anytime that Colleen describes Ralph's body, like, whichever character is looking at Ralph's body,
I mean, even
like, Colleen has an image in her head, and she's trying to let you know which Hemsworth she's talking about.
It's wild.
Because Colleen is DTF, man. Colleen is going to jump on that imaginary man. I hope it was a real one for her, that it was somebody she did get to jump. Like, I want that for her.
Yeah. Yeah, it was,
it's all about the plains of this and the valleys of that. And the...
Fucking Ralph.
I didn't know they had a gym at the Vatican, but I guess they do.
Well, that was the thing, and that's what everybody kept talking about. It was like, basically, like, his friend being like, we get all the uggos. Like, we don't really get the pretty ones. Like, he's like, you're a valuable commodity. But I mean, I guess that, like, again, it's interesting the Vatican politics that go into it. Because it's like, usually we're all sort of like little round Italians, but you're tall and got the planes and,
And I kind of felt that, like, Vittoria, whatever her name is, like, that was a coup for him. Is it like, yeah, I have that one. That one is in my stable. The hot one with the hot.
Please enjoy my hot secretary. Yeah, like.
Yes. You may look at him for a time. I will pet my cat.
And it was the same with Dane, because Dane's basically, he's Ralph Jr., but, more pure. So we know that the most valuable thing that you can be in this time period in Australia is a hot priest. So.
Mm-hmm. Which is probably true in a lot of places. Yeah. Let's be honest. Because you're allowed to pine for him without feeling bad about it. So that's cool. Except that you don't know that Father Ralph is trash. So, I mean, exactly. All your pining was actually, actually received. And you feel gross about that. But
yeah.
So, what pairs nicely with a dumpster fire? I don't know. Communion wine? I come from a Protestant tradition. So that's Welch's.
Oh. So tell us about what's your favorite Australian wine you've had while you're there? So have you discovered some of the best wines that you've had?
The one that I was the Innocent Bystander that I mentioned earlier, I quite like. They do a lot of Shiraz here, which. Yeah, I'm not sure that I have a favorite producer, but the Shiraz is great here. I don't know, and I think I mentioned earlier just how cheap wine is.
Yeah, just the wine game. That's where we go. Come get it.
Yeah, so we've super gotten into wine here, but it's great, and there's a number of great wine producing regions about. So yeah. But I was going to say what I would drink with this is Foster's.
It's
Australian for beer. Right. Because although technically it's brewed for the Aussies, isn't it just the Americans that are drinking it up right now?
I thought you couldn't get it in Australia until recently. I thought that I had read that, but that may be entirely incorrect.
I have not seen it. I feel if you went to the big liquor store, you could probably find some, but
I'm guessing you don't have the Outback Steakhouse. I would assume that you don't, but I was in Mexico and they have Chili's in Mexico. And I saw that, and they had the version of Guadalupe outside the Chili's, and I was like, "You reclaimed that. That's right." So they have Chili's in Mexico. So I don't want to assume that they don't have the Outback Steakhouse and Bloomin' Onions in Australia.
Yeah, if they do, I'm not aware of it.
Okay, so this has been the Thornbirds and our 50th episode.
50th episode.
I don't even know. Could I name them? Could you name them?
I might be able to.
I don't think I could name them.
With a pen and a paper, I think if you gave me I think I could do it. I do. I think I could do.
But not like that. But not like that. Last round of Family Feud, where it's a timer. I don't think I could name them if it came down to a high pressure situation. I'm not sure that I could.
I don't know. Each one has been an adventure.
50. So we thank you guys. We would have never been here for 50 episodes without you people. Y'all have been really amazing. We've met people we would have never known otherwise.
That's true.
We've met somebody else in Melbourne, of all places.
I know. We got Melbourne locked down. The Melbourne is locked down.
All segments of Melbourne.
Yes.
we have speech language pathology and BDSM sex work. We got those segments of the economy. We're in with that.
Yes.
It's amazing. I can't believe that we know people on the other side of the world because of this. Y'all have been the best listeners, and we really appreciate you. And we are doing this Patreon thing, but it's not just a Patreon thing. We are opening up to everybody to show you how much fun we have with our Patreon events. We're going to watch the entire Thornbirds miniseries, and we're gonna do it on Discord, so y'all don't have to buy the miniseries.
Nope. Yeah, we'll be able to just screen share it. So
yeah, so keep your eyes peeled for details about that. That is coming up.
So be sure to, if you liked us, cheap and easy way to help us get promoted is by rating and reviewing wherever you listen to your podcast. You can find us at bodicetipplers.com. On Twitter, we are btipplers, Bodice Tipplers on Instagram, and our Patreon is patreon.com/bodicetipplers. Bodice Tipplers is part of the Frolic Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcast.